Yesterday we talked about our Pythagorean theorem and using the Pythagorean theorem as a test to figure out whether or not a right triangle or whether or not a triangle was a right triangle or not. Today we're going to talk about using the Pythagorean theorem to find a missing piece of our right triangle. Our focus today is the hippo is missing. All day today we're going to be dealing with missing hippopotamus or missing hypotenuses in our right triangle. As a reminder or information for those who weren't here, and I'll link videos from every day into the lesson so that if you've missed days prior to this learning, you can go back and connect without having Mr. P here. Our hippopotamus or our hypotenuse is the longest side in our right triangle. In this case, it's over here. Our hypotenuse is the longest side of our triangle. It's also across from our right angle. So, all day today we're going to be dealing with missing hypotenuses and trying to figure out how we find them. So let's work with problem number 1 on our worksheet. This is our with Mr. P worksheet. It says Pythagorean day 2 at the top, and it says find the missing hypotenuse for each of the following triangles right below that. And we're working with problem number 1 right now, which is 3 and 4 on our legs, and we are missing our hippo. So our hypotenuse is gone. We need to figure out what it is. We're going to again use our Pythagorean theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Remembering that c is our hypotenuse and a and b are our legs. It does not matter what order we put our legs a and b in. So leg 1 will be 3 squared, and leg 2 will be 4 squared. We do not know our hippo, so it will be c squared. 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, c squared is unknown still. 9 plus 16 is 25. Now 25 is not the hippo, it's c. Our hypotenuse is 25 is c squared, our hypotenuse is c. So we need to figure out what number squared is 25. Or, in other words, take the square root of 25 to find c. And in this case, it will be 5. Now this one is on our list, so I didn't need to use my calculator at all, but I may need to in future examples if it doesn't come out nicely. Let's take a look at problem number 2. Problem number 2 gives me 2 legs, 3 and 8, and again, the hippo is missing. So we're going to set up our Pythagorean theorem. 3 squared plus 8 squared equals c squared. 3 squared is 9, 8 squared is 64, equals c squared. 9 plus 64 is 73. Now when Mr. P goes to create the square root of 73, this is not on my list of potential square roots. If I were to plug it into my calculator, I'm going to get a terrible decimal from it. Anytime that happens, if I do a square root and I get a terrible decimal, Mr. P wants us to leave it in root form. So when we go to put it back into here, we're going to call it the square root of 73. Now when you're doing these on IXL, you need to be very careful to listen to IXL's requirements on each of the problems. So read the directions thoroughly. They may ask some of these to be rounded to the nearest whole number, which in this case would probably be 8. Or they may ask to be rounded to the nearest decimal, which in this case, the square root of 73 is 8.5. So make sure that you listen to IXL's requirements. They may also ask you to leave it in square root form, but usually they have you do it as a decimal. So when you're doing the IXL for this particular lesson, and the ones coming up, if you end up with a root answer, make sure that you read the directions clearly, because you don't want to get problems wrong just because you didn't read the directions. Moving on to problem number 3 on that sheet. We again have a right triangle where our two legs are 6 and our hippo is missing. We're going to set up our Pythagorean theorem. So we have 6 squared plus 6 squared equals c squared. 6 squared is 36. 6 squared is 36. 36 and 36 is 72. Again, 72 is not on my list of values. So when I go to square root it, I will not get a nice number. So I need to leave it as the square root of 72 when I put it onto my answer sheet here for number 3. I'm going to do one more problem with you off the sheet, and then you're going to be responsible for the rest of them. I'm going to talk through the problems on the other sheet we're going to do, because again, Mr. P made it very random when he was doing his other sheet, and then we'll go over the IXL that you're expected to do. So problem number 4 here. Problem number 4 again sets us up with two sides of our right triangle. They're both legs and our hippo is missing. So we're going to have 7 squared plus 4 squared equals c squared. Again, like I've said several times throughout this, it does not matter what order we put our legs in. We can have 7 squared plus 4 squared or 4 squared plus 7 squared. Doesn't matter if 7 is A or B or 4 is A or B. They work the same either way. 7 squared is 49. 4 squared is 16. When I add them together, 49 plus 16 is 65. Again, when I go to square root my 65, it is not on my list. Most of the time when we're dealing with missing pieces, they won't be. The easier ones will give you perfect numbers, perfect square numbers, but a lot of them will not. And so this one is not much different. We have the square root of 65 as our answer here. Again, when we're doing our IXLs, make sure to pay very close attention to what the directions tell you and follow the directions to a T. The rest of the problems on our day 2 sheet need to be done. So all 12 of the problems on day 2 should be completed by the end of this hour. When you go over to your other packet though, it's a bit more random which problems we're going to do. So our day 2 problems, take this nice and slow so that everybody can follow along on page 1. So get over there, page 1 of the second packet, pause this if you need to get over there. So this is our Pythagorean theorem without Mr. P, or our parachute packet. We should be doing problems 1, 2, and 3. They're all missing hippos. But then we're not going to do problem 4. We are going to do problem 5. The parachute problem is a missing hippo problem. We're not going to do problem 6, and we are going to do problem 7. So again, on the front page is 1, 2, 4, 5, and 7. 1, 2, 3, 5, and 7. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 5, and 7. On the second page of the packet, we want to do any of the problems that don't have a C. So if they have A and B, we want to do them. If they don't have C. If they have C, we don't want to do them. So we want to do problems 1 and 2, 4, and 5. And then we skip all the way down to the end. That's it. 1 and 2, 4 and 5. Those are our page 2 problems from our packet for today. And that's it from that other packet. So 1, 2, 3, 5, 7 from the front page, 1, 2, 4, 5 from the second page. Finally, we're doing an IXL today. We're going to do IXL T1. Remember that our IXLs are going to be from 8th grade math, not from Algebra 1 today, and my expectation is at least 70 points and at least 10 questions answered. If you have 70 points but have not answered 10 questions, you need to keep answering questions until you have 10 answered. If you have 10 questions answered but you have not hit 70 points, you need to keep answering questions until you have 70 points. If you meet both those requirements, you can stop. And then remember, if you've answered 20 questions and you still don't have 70 points, you need to stop and ask Mr. P for help so that I can fill in anything that you're missing, so that you don't just keep answering questions forever.